Carrie and Lana, welcome to the show. How is it going today?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome. This is going to be fun. So for the listeners, we've got two people into the room today, and now in the virtual world, it's always you don't know which one I'm looking at when I'm asking the question, huh? So who's going to talk?
We kind of naturally bounce back and forth, so
Yeah, very good. And that's Carrie
yeah.
for the listeners out there today. And Lana, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about the therapy homeroom.
Yeah, I can start. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, serial private practice owner, and current doctor of social work student. And in addition to that, I provide mentorship, supervision, clinical consultation to other clinicians, and then workshops and all of that good stuff. So my background is actually in medical social work, and I've spent a ton of time working in level one trauma ICUs and other community health agencies. And I really, really loved doing that until the pandemic happened and my kiddos' schools shut down and we had nobody to help, to keep them. So I had to pretty much pivot overnight into private practice and just jump right into it, and had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but really had to make a necessity out of it at that time. And so when I transitioned into private practice, I felt so incredibly isolated, and I struggled to really find resources to help get me started and to feel confident to move forward. And so I really felt, just very, very alone. And it led me to recognize this very common struggle that a lot of mental health and healthcare professionals often face, which gets in the way of us starting private practices, or even like staying in the field, because we don't have the support and we end up burning out. So then I reached out to Carrie, because Carrie, and I can let her speak to her background, because I didn't know how to really run a business with like a very good brand strategy. And so I, started reaching out to her and started consulting with her on this. And we really realized that a lot of our skill sets actually overlapped really, really well, to be able to start therapy homeroom.
So what we kind of aim to do with therapy homeroom, bridging Lana's experience as a therapist. Me, Carrie, I'm not a therapist. I don't ever pretend to be, but I come in, and which is why Lana reached out to me with like this business slash marketing arm. So, and what we realized, and what Lana was saying was, during all of those years of schooling that therapists go through, like they're not really taught, oh, here's how to invoice someone, or here's how to create a marketing plan, or here's how to market yourself as a therapist. So we're bridging that gap between years of schooling that therapists and mental health professionals have to go through, but then this little corner of the market where they're not being taught the business side of things. So that's where therapy homeroom comes into play.
Tell me a little bit about the real estate piece of this when it comes to one, your private practice, and then two, do you talk about that in therapy homeroom? Because if you're going to practice, you need somewhere to practice, right? I know that we have the whole digital world and doctors on virtual meetings and all of that stuff, but where does the real estate fall into this?
Most definitely. So Carrie and I actually wrote an ebook that really starts, the healthcare professional from the very beginning of, okay, I want to start a practice, to walking them through everything that they need to the end, being able to launch. And so one of the big things that we talk about in that is, if you're going to be renting an office space, like how do you do that? What are the benefits of that? What are the drawbacks of that? How are you going to, lease a space versus buy a space? Are you going to, move a section of your home to being a tax write-off essentially, and having that be a home office, like that kind of thing. So we really do try to help folks not just make decisions because it feels good, but make decisions like real estate and like their office spaces that they're going to have based on data and based on metrics.
What are the top 3 steps that someone listening needs to do to go from either nothing to something?
Mm. First and foremost, I would say being able to know what it is you want to do. And you won't have all of those like little details and small little pieces figured out right away. But if you want to get into private practice, why? Who is it that you want to help? How do you want to help? Because that foundation right there is really going to set up everything else as part of your strategy, as part of being in values alignment, as part of, not having to just spin your wheels and trying to create and not having a direction to go. And then for number two, definitely echoing what we've already talked about, but having the right people around you, right? So there's so many times where we as professionals or business owners feel like we have to know everything and be the experts about everything. And, that includes taxes, that includes business strategy, brand strategy, marketing, all of those different things. And so knowing who can help you answer some of the questions you have, who can help you with connecting to referral networks, all of that would be step two for me. And for number three, I would say, having your plan outlined and chipping away at that plan, and utilizing the network that you do have, whether that be for logistics things like a CPA or an attorney if you need them to help you draft up things. But so often we also feel like because my name is on the business, Therapy Homeroom is mine, I have to touch everything, I have to be invested and do all of the stuff. That really keeps us in this like work mode and actually gets us away from being able to actually launch. So if you have a plan, following through with that plan and, making sure that we're having the folks who can do those things help us. And that can even go into things like having a number of different mentors. So one mentor is not going to be able to give you all of the things that you need, right? Because one mentor might be more on the emotional side of things, like, oh, I've got some hang-ups about this business pivot I'm going to make. Another one might be more about the logistics. Another one might be able to help you with more of the marketing side of things. So making sure that you stick with that plan and have like a diverse group of folks around you to help.
Kind of like DIY'd it. I had this little expertise in residential property, or not, excuse me, not expertise, experience. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Learning residential property management. I knew kind of the basics, right? And then I also knew web design. And so I was like, let's create a little like property management website. And I created to where they could put like work orders in and like upload leases and sign leases. So it's really cool to think about, even from, how does the renting work from the owner's side without going through a third-party management company, without having to fork over that money. Like, no, I'd rather do it, but it is stressful too, right? Thinking about, oh gosh,
Yeah.
we got calls from the HOA like, hey, your renters, like, we're like, what?
Mhm.
And like Lana said, you can't just drive down the street and go check up on them. Like,
Right. Yeah. That's where
hours long.
you have to lean on your systems, your processes, your procedures, your team. So doing it virtually is a whole nother thing. And then forking over that money, logistically, you just have to have that in your acquisition equation. So
Right.
because I'm building a business, I'm not buying myself another job. Just like private practice, the same way in the real estate world.